Part 2. Saint Dominic, founder of the Order of Preachers. Saint Dominic, founder of the Dominican Order, remember him? His story begins in 1170, 100 years after the death of Dominic of Silos. Dominic's mother, Jane of Azza, woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat in Calaruega, Spain, about 20 miles south of Silos. She had a dream about a hound running with a torch in its mouth, enkindling and illuminating the world. Troubled by this dream, she journeyed to the Benedictine Abbey of Dominic of Silos to look for an explanation. There she began a novena, spending her days and nights on the church floor. On the 7th day of the novena, she declared that her prayers were answered. During her novena, Jane had a vision of Dominic of Silos, and he told her that she would give birth to a child who would be a light of the church and a terror to those within it who would preach against the gospel message of life and love. When the child was born, he was named, in gratitude, after Dominic of Silos. When Dominic of Calaruega became of age, he too became a priest and was stationed at the local cathedral. On a diplomatic mission with his bishop through southern France, he met Christians who had been persuaded by the Cathari, a sect that believed that everything corporal of the body or of the earth was sinful. They believed in abstemious piety, a life somehow outside of our own bodies and all of creation. Dominic, however, he knew that the gospel called for generosity, not deprivation, that God asks us to love our neighbors, not to hate ourselves, and for us to look for and then celebrate resurrection in the midst of death, not to live in a mindset of death. When Dominic returned to Spain, he marched into the headquarters of the papal ambassadors appointed to combat the Cathari's growing popularity. It did not take long for Dominic to understand why the Catholic Church was failing against this condemning fire and brimstone movement. The papal spokespersons traveled like princes with a costly entourage. Their long-winded lectures were uninspired, and they simply could not present an attractive alternative to the clear-cut evangelical message of the Cathari. The papal spokesperson's words rang hollow because their action discredited any truth they might utter. In response to the Cathari's overzealous rejection of the flesh, and his own church leaders' overindulgence in luxury, Dominic conceived a model for a new kind of religious life based on the pattern of the original apostles. These new kinds of monks should be well trained in theology and doctrine, and especially skilled in the art of communication. Rather than live in a monastery, they would travel on foot, engaging people in dialogue. For Dominic, a simple lifestyle kept him light and free and allowed him to preach with integrity, preaching first with his actions and then with his words. Dominic's followers in this order of preachers became known as Dominicans, or Dominicanes, hounds of God, who took to the highways and city streets, fields and streams, to faithfully praise, bless, and preach about and to God's beautiful creations.